You are listening to Sharing Abundance, an In Time Tech podcast. We love the support and thank you for listening. Enjoy!
Good morning and welcome, team, to the third episode of ITT podcast, Sharing Abundance. In today's episode, we'll be having conversation with one of the co-founder and the Chief Technical Officer of In Time Tech, Mr. Rakesh Sawan. First of all, I would like to acknowledge that you came here within a short notice, and we just sent you an invite, and you were here with your time. And
my pleasure.
And I'm glad to get to know about your journey and all the aspects you can share with us, so that we can get some insights on how we could take decisions for our futures, and what all technologies you would like us to pursue, or you would like the freshers to pursue in aspect of today's domain, or
Today's world.
Yeah, today's world, of course.
Right.
And personally, I'm really excited to have you here on this episode today. I was really looking forward to it because we have not got a chance to talk to each other like this before, and I know that you can share great insights to inspire other people and us as well. So it's really a pleasure to sit in front of you like this, have a chat.
Sure. And thank you both of you. Right. First of all, personally for me also, it is like good to have a direct conversation, one-on-one conversation with both of you individually, right? So I was also looking forward for this.
We want to start with how you chose technology and how you became a technologist.
Yeah.
Right. Great. And let me start, right? And it goes back to my childhood, basically. In those days, computers were not there. So story is going to start somewhere and then we'll end somewhere else, right? So my father, like for me, I was fascinated with electronics, right? My father used to repair, somewhere he learned, how to repair electronics. So he used to repair. So my childhood went playing with resistors and capacitors and inductors and all that. That's how my childhood went. So for me, like electronics were my passion, right? I wanted to be an electronics engineer. I was in a small village, so had no idea that there's something like PET or examination exists. But then somewhere in my mind, I wanted to be that. Then I think it was 11th and 12th where I did my schooling from a bigger city, Indore. And that's when I got to know about all of these competitions and everything. And then I went through PET, right, and MP. In those days, there were a total 11 engineering colleges in MP. Today, probably in hundreds, right? So, so as I said, I went to the counseling, and then my first preference was electronics. If electronics did not happen, then electrical was the next one because it's the closest branch, right? I mean, there's a common word between, you can see, electrical and electronics. So electronics was hot branch those days. I did not get, my rank was not that good. So then I went with electricals, right? That's how my engineering journey started. And computer science was available, like, in those days, computer science was not very popular, right? So it was available, but I did not take because I had no idea about it at that time. It was when I was in electrical engineering, second year of my electrical engineering. We had a course on microprocessor, 8085 microprocessor. And, I got to, use there was a small board and I got to play with it, right? So wrote some simple assembly programs like addition, multiplication. You could do that in 8085. So that's when I got hooked up with programming. Something happened to me at that time, right? Okay, this is the field I want to build my career in. I still remember in 8085 does not support floating point arithmetics. You can only do integer arithmetic. So one of the big program that I had wrote at that time on 8085 was to support floating point arithmetic in assembly. Okay. So I just got hooked with programming, in those days, and that's how my career started in programming. Even though I was electrical, by the time I was out of engineering, fourth year of my engineering, I was way better than the students, even computer science students. I used to study, used to learn. I used to go to the library, read books, even though they were not part of my curriculum. Right? I used to read operating system books. I used to program pretty much whole day. If there was a break, you will find me in the computers lab. Right? During the day, computers lab would be occupied, so I'll go in the evening, work whole night, leave from college around 4 o'clock in the morning, go home, sleep for some time, come back 10 o'clock for the classes. So this is how my next 2-3 years went in the engineering. And then I did my master's from IIT Kharagpur. And there again, the similar routine, whole night we used to program. Like this is like, in colleges, night times, right? So we used to do work in night times. So whole night program again, similar routine for next 1.5 year. It was 18 months course. And that's how my computer science journey started, right? And then I got into a startup in 2000. I think it was 1999. Was my first job when I graduated from IIT Kharagpur in Bangalore. And I was very, I was in love with Java, I would say, right? I had programmed with Fortran, I had programmed with Pascal in the beginning of my college. Then I learned C, right? C++. And then in 95, when Java was introduced, right? And you can imagine it's like C is on one side, Java on the other side, like a sea change. What I could do in what would take for me to do, it will take days for me to do something in C. I would get that done in an hour in Java, right? That was the sea change, right? And so I was in love with Java as a language, the object-oriented flavor of it, definitely. And then it simplified everything. Yeah. You want to do multi-threading, you want to do socket programming, everything was just so simple, right? It was very easy for you to stand up a remote RPC server and client within minutes in Java. And see, if you want to do it, it'll take months. So Java was my, the language that I wanted to work in. So in 1999, when I got my first job, that's what I was dreaming for, right? And then when I got into the company, it was like a kind of shock for me. They gave me a project which was C++, and they asked me to work on test automation, right? So I said, okay, what happened? Right? Did I do anything wrong? Like, did my interview go well? As a college student, this is what you think, right? Yeah. Okay, maybe something wrong happened in my interview, and they thought I'm not good for programming. And so I cried for 2 days after that, right? Because you can see it was a shock for me, right? I wanted to work in Java, I wanted to be a developer, and then I was given a job, in test automation and in C++. Yeah. And that time it was like that. And I'm not, today when I look at it, I'm really thankful for that decision was made for me, right? And for 2 days I cried. And as I made up my mind in those 2 days. So, okay, I'm going to do what is being asked me to do. No questions asked. And I did not even talk to my manager. Why have you asked me to do this, right? I decided in my mind that I'm just going to do what is being asked me to do and do with the best of my abilities. They must have seen something. I don't know what it was. So, and after that, I just put my entire focus in, and I built the whole automation framework as a fresher. I was just out of college and I built the whole framework in next 9 months. I worked on that. And it was all C++ code that I had written. And the framework was all about, building they used to work on database engines. So how do you test the database engines? Like you can have different kind of queries that you need to send, and then you need to validate the results. So that the whole framework used to generate queries and everything, different kinds of combinations and everything you did. So in 9 months, I did that, and then they moved me into a development project after that, right? After 9 months. Again, it was C++, and it was a database engine, core engine that I used to work on. For 2.5 years, I worked in that company. It was a startup in Bangalore. And it was 2001, I think. There was a downturn in the industry overall, and that company got impacted. And so that's when I moved to HP. I joined HP for a product called HP Output Server. I was the first engineer in India to be part of that team. Right. And by the time I left HP in 2009, that team had become 120 people team. So I joined as a senior software engineer. I became an architect in the same product, and it was like about 9 years stint in the same. I did not change anything in between, right? No other job. There's only one job change I did, and that's the only job change I have, right? So, and then we started in time tech in 2009. That's obviously I have to change. I had to leave my job at that time, but otherwise in my whole career of more than I think 10 10, maybe 12, 13 years, I think. It was only one job I changed, right? So I was very, my thinking was always, I wanted to be one place and do the, whatever I can. Right?
Do whatever the best
I can, right? So, so it was in HP. Again, I worked in HP in C++. The product was all written in C++. And I worked there for about, same product for about 8-9 years, right? And then during the process, technology was changing. And so I learned Java after that. Java, anyway, I was learning from very beginning. So I never left that, right? I used to continue to learn that while my actual projects were in C++. I used to work in Java offline, like, when I go home or weekends, I always used to build something. So I continue to be in touch with Java, and then I learned C# also. When I was in HP, we needed to build a new UI or whatever. So then I learned. It was like I learned within a week C# as a language. So that's how my kind of technology career went. It started with Fortran, Pascal in the very beginning to C++ throughout majority of my career, about 10 years. And then after that, I learned many languages. Today, for me, language is not a barrier, right? For me, every language looks the same.
Yeah.
And I would say thanks to C++, because it gives me a different level of understanding. See what happens when you're learning Java or Python or C#, you're not handling memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's all handled by the language itself. But actually, somebody is allocating that memory for you. And so people use it, but they don't have an idea what's going on underneath. For me, what I call is I have an X-ray vision. Like when you do an X-ray, you actually see the parts of the body. So I have that understanding when I'm working with Java or C# or any other language. I have that understanding what's really going on underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Underneath the operating system and all
everything. I can see through and throughout, from assembly till the higher level languages we talk about. So it gave me that ability to look at everything like that. And I think that's what makes me a great technologist. If it was not because of C++, I think I would not be here where I'm today. So I thank my manager for the decision that he has taken for me. And I had no idea. And I said, I've even cried for 2 days, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm thankful for that decision that was made on the first day when I joined our company. And that's why I say whenever freshers join, I say just trust your manager, because I know what it created for me. We have these questions, okay, what will happen? Is this the right technology?
Yeah.
Many questions come as a fresher, and I have been myself through that process, right? And I always I tell everyone that trust your management. They are doing the right thing. They know better than you do. I had no idea when I was joining the industry what is possible for me.
Yeah.
I thought I knew everything. Similarly, today's fresh engineers, they think the same thing. They think they know everything.
Yeah.
But in reality, we don't know much.
Exactly, because we, the fresh engineers, or we in general, only know about what our choices or what domain we want to go.
Right.
But what about the domain if our manager gives us and we would excel in that, and according to that, our life would be formed or shaped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like my life got shaped, your life is also going to get shaped. Your managers are making the right decisions for you.
Yeah.
They are not here to create any problems for you.
Yeah.
But then sometimes as a freshers, we don't understand that, right? So my advice to all of you is to just trust your organization, whichever organization you're going into, and trust the manager or whoever you're working with, mentor or manager, that they are doing the right thing for you. And if you can be that way, then you're going to excel in your career. Like that's what I did. I just my brain was saying something is wrong here. And I say, okay, you shut up. There's nothing wrong here. Just do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And when I was able to do that, I can create, I'm here today as the CTO of the company. I don't think that would have been possible without that.
Yeah, and as a fresher, I think it is important to learn. And when you're going to learn something, it is important to just trust the other person who is teaching you, and then just trust their decisions and go with
it. Right. And we always have aspirations. Like Java was my aspirations, and eventually I have written a lot of code in Java. Eventually.
Yeah.
And you always will, you can fulfill your aspirations. It's possible. But it's only when you are willing to do whatever is required out of you.
Yeah.
If you say, okay, I'm not going to do what you're asking me to do, but I'm going to continue my thing, then it doesn't work. It creates a conflict.
Yeah.
So So as far as if you ask me as a technology, what technologies, right? I would still ask each one of you to learn the C and C++, very basic foundation. If you really look at it, every language that you know today is written in C. Go and do a Google search. Python is written in C, Java is written in C, C# is written in C. So C is like mother of all languages. So I would highly recommend that each one of you should practice. I'm not saying C may not be used extensively today because of the obvious reason, because very hard. I also don't use C a lot these days, right? Because what I can do in Java in a day will take a lot of time in C. So it's not about that, okay, we will be using C, but if you want to understand any technology, right? C gives you that level of understanding of what is really happening in the system. So from that perspective, I would recommend that you should all be learning C as a starting point. You should know how to implement various data structures like linked list, right? You should know how the various IPCs work, like inter-process communications, we call it, mechanisms like files, right? Shared memory and all that. Some of those can only be possible in C, right? You can't, other languages may not even provide those kind of facilities.
Yeah. You can see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So we call it building a foundation, right? If you want to build a solid building, first thing you do is build a foundation, right? And then that is the time, that is where the most of the time goes, right? If it takes like a year for you to build a building, 3 months of that will go in just the foundation. And within 15 days, the walls show up. So for me, the languages are walls, right? You can learn any language, any technology within a short span of time. It depends, maybe 15 days, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. But foundation is where you have to spend a lot of time, right? So how do you build a solid programming foundation? Are we able to implement your own data structures, whichever language you use, right? C, if you can use C, great. But do you have that understanding of, okay, what different data structures are there and what do they mean? How do you build it? Not using it, because using anyone can do. If you want to be a software engineer, you need to not only use it, but you should also know how to build it if you ever need to build it.
Yeah.
Like data structures like hash table or linked list or binary trees it's all provided, comes with various languages like Python or Java and C#. But if given an opportunity, will you be able to build it? That's the question. And I see most of the people have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, for me, that's a programming foundation. If you don't know that, and you can learn a bunch of technologies, people learn machine learning, people learn AI. But if you don't know the basics, then I say, okay, what's the point? It's like putting an ice cream on top of a gobar, right? That's what it is. Yeah. It looks beautiful outside, but really underneath there's nothing. So my input to everyone would be is build the foundation, put the focus. Right now in the forming years, you have to focus on the foundations. And once the foundations are strong, then you can learn any technology. It's just a matter of time. Some may take months, some may take 2 months. For me, it's like this today. I mean, I am not scared, afraid of anything.
So now here I want to ask you, like, what are the traits you think that can make someone a technologist? So apart from building the foundation about the technology,
I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
There's one trait you need to be crazy. You need to be crazy about whatever you're doing, right? Like when I was in a college, it starts from there, right? My friends, college friends, right? They used to tell me like, Rakesh is crazy. He's a pagal ho gaya, like that, right? Because the only place they will find me, if I'm not there somewhere, they'll find me only one place, is in computer lab, right? So how you build foundation is by just working hard, just day in, day out. That's all you need to do.
And even if it applies to the college freshers as well, because whenever they are into employment or whenever they are into that drive or campus drive, they always think that we should not be placed into a startup, because therein they feel that the pay is less and the work is more. Sure. But it's all about the foundation.
Yes, and absolutely.
It's all about their level of craziness that they want to put into the work they are assigned.
Yeah. And definitely, I think since you're asking this question, I see a lot of focus in today's generation is on results. Everybody wants to get hired. Yeah. Right. And we all need to get hired. I was also working that eventually I'll get hired. But how do we spend the time in the process? Getting hired is a result of what you do eventually. Exactly. If you are capable, you will be hired. But are we spending time to learn the basic concepts, not just to get some place in some company? right? So how do we work like that, where we just work to work, not to get hired, and yet we will get hired because we are capable of something? So how do we do that is another thing. Right now, I see most of the people, okay, I want to get placed in this company, and for this, I need to do this, and I'm done. I did not operate like that. I was learning, I was sharing with you, right? I was learning operating system, which was not even there in my course, but I was learning, and I did not even think I'll get hired because of this. I was just doing it because I wanted to learn.
Yeah, so doing it for yourself. Basically.
Yeah, doing it because you want to learn and grow and get better in a given area. And if we can do that, then hiring people will hire you. They will line up to hire you.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we build ourselves as a capable engineers of the future rather than just to get some job? Right now, in terms of whether multinational or startup, there are pros and cons of both, right? Multinational gives you a more of a stable environment, right?
Yeah.
But then there are a lot of, there's a bureaucracies there, right? It takes time to get things done. The definitely environment is different, right? I would not say this is better than worse, better or worse, but it's just that they are two different ball games, right? In terms of how they operate, right? And so as a fresher, you need to choose what are you looking for, I would not say, startups are always good, right? Startups can have challenges too. But definitely, historically, we have seen startups gives you that environment, right? You have to learn fast, deliver fast, because everybody is looking. Okay, company, everybody is looking to make money, because if they don't make money, then company will shut down.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everybody is working towards that. So there's a lot of rigor in the process in a startup company. That's what makes it different. Whereas a big company, money is already there. They have piles of cash. So money is not the concern. So when money is not the concern, things can take time, and it's okay, right? And that's why the differences are there in the way the two kind of organizations operate. If you think about it, what is a big company today was a startup one day.
Exactly.
Right? Like Infosys or TCS or HP. I come from HP. HP was a startup one day, and so every company goes through that. It's not like one versus other, right? It's just that there are two different things now, and this is one reason at In Time Tech specifically we try to keep that that spirit intact.
Yeah.
We try to create an environment, even though we are not startup anymore, right?
Yeah.
We are like 13 years old company, more than 1,000 employees.
Yeah.
But then our goal is to keep creating that environment, right, for our people when they join. That rigor. So you can see that you all, I think we both joined as freshers.
I have seen my growth in the last 1 year, and I could not even imagine before joining here. So that is basically the rigor that I was put into. I was learning new things day in, day out, and then I did not know what I'm going to do about it in my career, but then it helped me.
So even though we are not a startup, our all the focus all the time, okay, how do we create that culture? See, it's not about startup or a multinational. It's about having that culture of learning and growth.
Yeah.
Right. And we create intense environment. If you think about the recent freshers who just joined, you can talk to them. The level of intensity they got. Right. We keep inventing ourselves in that way. Right. We created a new concept of hackathon. It was not there when you both joined.
Yeah.
We did not. We created that, and that created a level of rigor for them. What they learned in 15 days, you talk to them, they would not have learned in 3 months.
Exactly.
That's the kind of learning they got.
Yeah.
And there is a reward for that also, right? It's not like, okay, they're learning and they're getting rewarded, both at the same time. So we keep looking at it, right? So so it's not an easy question to answer. I would not say, big companies, multinationals are bad or startups are good. They're two different kinds of organizations, and people need to choose what works for them better.
So in your whole journey, from your first job in 1999 to becoming the CTO and co-founder of In Time Tech, the technologies you were using and you work upon, what do you think would be the upcoming technologies from 10 years down the line? What you would think that In Time Tech would be working on, and what the world would be heading to?
Right. Great. It's a difficult question, right? Because the future is unknown by design, right? So you never know. Just to give an example, there was Angular 1.5 was the greatest and the latest technologies like 5 years ago. And now Angular 2 came and everything became old, right? So everything that is new will become old one day, right? So it's, especially when it comes to software industry, technology landscape changes very, very fast, right? Things change quite often. What we are seeing right now in the industry is a lot more, if you talk about the new things, the new innovations are happening in low-code and no-code platforms like Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce. So see, if you look at the whole evolution of the industry, started with assembly. Initial programs we used to written in assembly. It was very, very hard, right? And it was okay because programs were very small. But then as the program became big, it became difficult, and that's when languages like Fortran, Pascal, and C got invented, right? And then it became Java, right? Then Java came, and then C# came, and so technology the technology advancing. So that as the human beings, we don't have to push a lot of intellectual effort in building things. Right. So every few years, we get a language or a platform that makes us easier to build things. Right. Which is a good thing, by the way. Right. There are two sides of the coin always. Right. And we'll talk about that. But this is where the technology is heading. It's moving towards a place where anyone can code, kind of. Right. And so platforms like Microsoft Dynamics, you can build systems without doing a lot of coding. Right? Salesforce is a similar thing. It's a platform. It comes with a lot of built-in functionalities, and you can change a few things here and there, and everything will work. Right? So that is where one of the things evolution is happening in the industry is moving towards what we call as a low-code and no-code platforms. Right? There'll be less and less code will be written in the future. Which is a good thing. And as a the bad part of it is that people who are working on it may not have an understanding of the whole thing.
What's
going on underneath?
What's the
foundation, which is what we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. That's what was my next question actually, but you answered it.
Yeah. And so this is one thing which I always keep a focus that when we talk about building things, we should always use the language and the platform that is best suited for that, right? But at the same time, we should not we should not be in a situation where we don't know what's going on underneath. So how do we do both is where the magic is, right? You understand everything, and yet you're using the low-code and no-code platforms, or the languages like Java or C# which requires you to write much less code to do the same thing compared to C, for example. So how do we create that blend is where the magic is.
Yeah, and that keeps you're working on that low-code and no-code platform more powerful.
Absolutely, right? So that's one area. Second, a lot of things are happening when it comes to IoT, internet, in connected devices, right? So that's obviously AI and machine learning, right? Those are the things where more and more work will happen in the future. And as a company, we already are operating in the low-code, no-code space. So Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce are two platforms we're already working. So our goal is to keep growing that. Right, AI and machine learning and data science are other areas where we are focusing on.
So intrigued to know that how the low code and no code works. Like somebody has to build the platform wherein we just operate like using 2 to 3 UIs and the work is done. But who builds the platform? Like would there be any understanding of building the platform? Who would be the people who are building the platforms, or
developers, right?
Yeah.
So there will be software developers who are building those platforms.
So the number of developers would be less now rather than the people who are managing those modules.
Yeah.
And
so there'll be two categories of people, right? The people who are building it and people who are using it. So the people who are using it doesn't have to have as much understanding of the whole platform as much as the developers who are building it. Right, so which means that there are more people who can actually build things, right? Because they don't need to have. Not everybody needs to be an engineer, right? So that's so it will become, because it's easy to build things, right? So and so you will need less and less developers with a greater insight about the workings of the platform. And so it's like there will be rebalancing will happen where you will need less developers and or I would say less hardcore developers. There'll still be developers, but not like hardcore developers who needs to understand everything. So it depends on what inspires somebody, right? You just want to build and don't want to understand how it's working. Then maybe that's good. Microsoft Dynamics is a great platform for it.
Okay.
But if you are somebody who really, I want to know how it works internally, then maybe, you should be on the other side of where you're actually building those platforms. So it also depends on people's capability and their own inspiration, what inspires them. To me, if you ask me, it is other way around, right? For me, okay, how do you build a platform that inspires me?
Yeah, exactly. We got it.
Yeah, so one thing I just wanted to ask from the previous conversation that we were having about people learning new technologies and building the foundation. So at that time, what I see in today's world is freshers or like people who are in college right now, they're putting in their money and their efforts in learning, but they're learning from a course, they're doing self-learning as well, they're going to coachings as well. So what do you think are the places that they are lacking in? So what is that barrier you think that if they can overcome that, they will be in the right direction to pursue a career in technology?
I think it's kind of, we talked about this. There is a focus on results. People are learning to get something out of it. And that's where the challenges are, right? When you are learning to get you're not learning to learn, you're learning to get something. That is where the challenge is. So is somebody going to a course just to learn only, not worrying about what will happen later, why I'm learning this, right? Asking that question. And I see most of the time people are learning because they want a job.
Yeah.
And that's where the challenge is. So it's not that learning itself is a problem. You can learn, but why are you learning it? Are you inspired about it? You want to know about something? Or you just want to get a job and that's why you're learning it?
So it's basically the perspective that they're working for.
Exactly. Now, everybody needs a job. I'm not saying that we all need a job. I also needed a job. But I never, before I learned something, I did not ask the question, okay, I should do this only because I'll get a job, right? I learned because I wanted to learn. That's what I would say is everything is great, whatever people are learning, right? But why are we learning is a question. Because people do a lot of AI and machine learning, and I have no idea why people do that.
Yeah.
Right? Because they think that that's where the industry is and that's where the jobs are.
That's the blend you were talking about, that people are eager to learn the UI or that module which they want to work, but not for the development part. Yes. Because they find it interesting.
And also people feel that this is where the job opportunities are.
Yeah.
So you learn only what is needed in the market. And that is where the challenge is. Right? Now we should learn that. I'm not saying we should not. But it's a balance of the two, right? Do we understand the fundamentals, right? Learning to learn and then align with the market.
So Rakesh, one last question for you, and it will give insights to people in college and who are pursuing technology. So what does a CTO look for when he goes for interview, and what does he keep his questions about, and what he wants from the new beginners?
Yeah. And I can answer this question for myself because every CTO might have a different way of looking at it. But the way I look at it, right? I look at, when I interview people, I look at their basic fundamental programming skills, right? It doesn't matter which language they're using, whether they use Java or Python or C# or C, it doesn't matter the language, but do they have the basic fundamentals, right? Do they understand, right? Let's say, for example, data structures, like do you understand what is stack data structure, where it is used, how it is used, data types, what are different data types you have got, what are how much memory do we need, right? And all of that. So you can go on and like that, right? Like books are written on that. So unfortunately, people don't read books these days. They go to Google and search. So their knowledge is limited. But that's what I look for is, does the person understand the basics? Because for me, if somebody has put the effort to understand the basics at that level, that person can do anything. You might know AI and machine learning. I'd hardly ask any question on AI and machine learning because anyone can do these days, AI and machine learning, right? You don't need to know a lot of things. There are libraries available. You just go and use it. What is there in AI and machine learning? Everybody is going after that right now. But like, there's nothing over there. As a developer, what is your contribution to it? That's the question. Are you building AI algorithms? You're not. Are you building neural network algorithms? You're not. And that's what machine learning is all about. What we are doing these days in AI and machine learning is using those algorithms.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm looking for a person who is building those algorithms.
Okay. And what are the traits on the personal front that you look for?
Yeah, great question. Couple of things, right? First is, are you hardworking, right? Are you going to put the effort, right? people can, what I've seen in my life is people can learn anything as long as they're willing to put the time and energy into things. So that's one of the most important characteristic is, are we willing to put the time and effort into learning things, right? I would say that's the critical part of it.
Okay.
Rest all will follow, right? Once you're willing to put the time and effort, and everything will follow after that. The other aspect is, okay, people have this, okay, I want to do this XYZ, whatever they've made up in their mind, and not willing to listen to other people about what they have to say. That's something that I would not prefer, because it becomes difficult.
Yeah, it becomes difficult.
Because person want to go somewhere, and organization is want to take him somewhere else because organization has a better understanding maybe, but then it will not work because person already has something in his or her mind. And as we shared earlier, that we as a freshers, we really don't know anything. So if we get stuck to our point of view, then it will not work eventually. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, having conversation with a technologist and understanding like what is your point of view is helping us to make us better in our future, and taking decisions and choices actually. Like, I choose to work with this, so I will.
Awesome. And one thing I can say, and this is something which I learned very early in my career as a technologist, right? I am a hardcore as a technologist. At the same time, I don't see technology as an end. It's not the end goal. It is a means to an end. It is the technology that you use something to achieve something for our customers or the end users, right? And this is very important as a technologist. And I got this insight very, very early in my career, probably with the experiences I have had, is that technology is a means to an end. And so I don't get attached with any technology because that's not the end. It is just a means. So most of the time what happens is the freshers, when we start, we get attached. Oh, I want to learn XYZ. I want to work on this. But it's just a means to an end. That's not an end.
Yeah.
So my advice to everyone is to not get attached with anything. Yeah. Right? Just be open.
Yeah, it is basically what I'm getting is what you want to build out of it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. What you can build, who will use, that's more important than the technology you're using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our perspective, we try to fit ourselves in some technology and the domain, and we all only want to work in that particular part, and we want to develop or create something for our end users, but it's not the part. We should like be open for every technology. That's because it's for creation.
Exactly. Focus should be on the end user or end customer and what they need, and then use the right technology that is needed for that, which could mean at times is using low-code, no-code platform because that suits the best, or using scripting languages to build something. Answer can be anything. So that's how I look at technology these days. And I, at the same time, I'm really good at technology too. So I'm not saying technology is not important, but I don't look at it as it's more a perspective, right? I don't look at it as an end. It's a means to an end. It gives you better, and you can be more effective in the end with that perspective.
Yeah, I'm glad to learn that perspective from you because it opened up something for me actually. So the question about one of your program you started for the beginners and freshers who are just entering the engineering domain. Yep. You started your program named as Kalpavriksha. Tell us something about Kalpavriksha program.
Okay, great. So it was 2019. See, this was always my passion, right? Technology has been my passion, and I always want to contribute in people's life, like especially people coming out of colleges. And as part of In Time Tech, we've been doing that, right? When we started in 2009, since then we have been one of the focus is how do we help our students coming out of colleges? How do we build them as a solid technologist? So we've been doing that. And we have seen the results of it. Many other people are not working with In Time Tech right now, but they're really doing great in their lives, right? And that was always been the vision. But then I think that was that's getting limited. It was limited, right? To people who are part of In Time Tech only will get benefited. So that is where I started this initiative called Kalpavriksha, where we can help the students who are still in colleges and may or may not be part of In Time Tech. Right, and so again, the purpose is the same. How do we build them as a solid technologist, right? So what we talked about, like building their basic fundamentals and understanding of various concepts, right? So that's what we teach them in Kalpavriksha, and we have been doing it since 2019. August 2019 is when we started. It was India's Independence Day on that day, right? And we've completed about 2 years, and then hundreds of students have gone through it so far. And I've seen people, some students specifically, who have really done the work that the way we asked them to do. They actually had 5 job offers in their hands.
That's the power.
That's the possibility.
Yeah, power and possibility of the fundamentals that people are lacking now.
Yeah, and then one of the students who got job was sharing with me certain concepts he learned, and in the interview they were asking, okay, where did you learn this concept? Like, because nobody teaches that, right? People don't understand many of the times. So then he shared, okay, this is what I went to Kalpraksha and I'm learning from there, right? So people are surprised and amazed at the kind of learnings people are making in the program right now, right? So my again, invitation to you is open for all. If you are committed for your own learning, there cannot be a better platform than Kalpraksha. Free,
and it's free of cost.
It's free. Yeah, we don't charge anything.
I'm so glad for this initiative because people would be benefited and they'll have extraordinary results in their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Sharing Abundance. Be sure to visit our website and check out our other episodes at intimetech.com. That is INTIMETEC.com. Thanks again for listening.